Alright guys, what we're going to be talking about today is a composition of functions. Alright? The very first thing I want you guys to write into your journal, alright, is I want you guys to write F, a little circle right here, and G, and I want, this is not fog, okay? This is F of G, alright? That's what it means. A little circle means F of G. So what we're going to be doing right now, it says, suppose F and G are functions. So we're supposing that F and G are functions, which means these right here are functions. Thank you for not making so much noise there. I appreciate that while I'm recording. Okay. Such that the range of G is a subset of the domain of F. Okay, so that's what we're going to be figuring out. We're going to be looking at the range of G and if it's a subset of the domain of F. So if you're looking for F of G, what I want you to understand is we're going to be taking the values of G and looking to see if are they a subset of the values of F. So what I want you to do first is do this. Write domain of G. That's what we're going to start with. We're going to make a little map. So we'll make a map right here. All right. And right now, in this little map, I'm going to write the domain of G, which is the x values of G. So I have a 0, I have a -1, and I have a 4. So I'm going to list 0, -1, and 4. After I've listed those in this map, what I'm going to do is I'm going to write the range of G. Make a map, the range of G. Now, 0 leads me to a -9. -1 is my domain. My range is 3. My domain is 4. My range is a -1. And then I'm going to make a little arrow going across. So 0 goes with -9, -1 goes with 3, and 4 goes with -1. So when I'm finding F of G, I start by listing the domain of G, which leads me to the range of G. Now I'm going to highlight something. It's very important that now we pay really close attention to the range of G. I'm going to go back up to the vocabulary. It says, such that the range of G is a subset of the domain of F. So right above where it says range of G, I want you to write the words, look for the domain of F. So let's look at the domain of F. The domain of F, is there a -9? Yes. Is there a 3? Yes. Is there a -1? Yes. So this is going to work. This is going to exist because these range values, all of these range values are a subset of the domain of your F. So over here, the last thing I want you to write is I want you guys to write the range of F. We're going to make a little map for the range of F. We're going to make an arrow going all the way across. All right. So what does -9 eventually lead me to? It leads me to a -1. 3 leads me to a 4. And -1 gets me to 0. So by the way, this does exist. F of G does exist. What did we start with? We started with a 0, and that eventually led me to -1. So I want you guys to write in your journal, F of G is this set of ordered pairs. 0 eventually led me to a -1. -1 eventually led me to a 4. And 4 eventually got me to 0. These are the ordered pairs for F of G. All right, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to find G of F. So we're going to go back to this right here. All right. So instead of F of G, I want you guys to write G of F. what we're going to do is we are going to start now. We're not starting with the domain of G. We're actually going to start with the domain of F. So I want you to make a map of the domain of F to start out. And the domain of F is a -9, -1, and a 3. And the domain of F will lead us to the range. My arrow is still across. So, -9 leads me to -1. -1 gets me to 0. And 3, 4. So this is my input, this is my output. But this time, we're going to figure out, is the range of F a subset of the domain of G? So we're going to do the opposite. So is the range of F a subset of the domain of G? Let's check. Does the domain of G have a -1 somewhere? Yes, right there. Does the domain of G have a 0? And last but not least, it does have a domain of 4. So this will actually also work. This will also exist. For example, I'm just going to do a quick little example. Let's say this number right here wasn't a 4, this number was a 5 and not a 4. Well, then if you scan through the problem, if there wasn't a 5 in the domain, then your answer would be it does not exist. So it has to exist for all the numbers. So right now it does exist. If one of them is missing, then it doesn't exist. They all have to work. That's a good question. They all have to work. Now, the last thing I'm going to do is I'm changing colors. Now if I say domain of G, what's my final map going to be? Range of G. Range of G. My map for the range of G. All right, here we go. So now let's check this out. At a -1, that's going to lead me to a 3. 0 leads me to -9, and 4 leads me to -1. So this one does exist. So I'm going to write here. I'm going to write G of F does exist, and the ordered pairs that I'm going to have is going to also be 3 sets of ordered pairs. When I start with a -9, that eventually got me to a 3. When I plugged in a -1, eventually that led me to a -9. And last but not least, when I started with a 3, that got me all the way to a -1. And that would be my answer, everybody, for G of F. Very important that you guys map this out. By mapping it out, it'll help your brain be able to recognize how you are going from what? How you're going from the domain of F, eventually leading you to the range of G. Okay? And that's it.